Hey everybody, good evening. It is Saturday and evening. I'm just chilling at home, the house is to myself. Like it, a little peace and quiet. Anyway, TV Ramble guy again, Jean Pierre. And this evening we're looking at Hurricane, High Gravity, Malt Liquor, 8.1% ABV, makers from Anheuser-Busch. Um, I got a shot glass. So I'm in for the night pretty much, and I don't expect to be going anywhere. I got a movie on the DVD player right now. I'm watching the Best Exotic Manigal Hotel, the first one. I got the second one after that, and I got American Hustles. A couple of movies I got on DVD today. Just got off work, exhausted, tired. So anyway, here I am. It is a malt liquor. Some look at it maybe possibly as a Hellas Doppelbock. Kind of similar to the style of beer as Ice House Edge. But anyway, pouring the beer now in my little pint glass. It's dripping right now on the carpet, on my, no, excuse me, on the floor. Just took out the carpet recently. Oh, a lot of foam up top. I had it in the freezer for a little while, ice cold. And this is the only way you drink these beers is to have it ice cold, not room temperature. Ice cold. Um, Makers Anheuser-Busch makes the beer. Like I said, the guys at Beer Advocate don't give it a great score, but the brothers give it an 81, which is, I guess it's good. Means they like it. I guess it has some complexities to it, but for them to give it that high of a score. Um, I've been leery. I haven't had this beer in a while. I guess the 8% recently has not been my thing. I've been drinking quite a few of Mickey's recently. Um, Steel Reserve, I've kind of cut back on Steel Reserve too. We only get the 8% here. Like I said, I recently did a review of Ice House Edge, which I did on my channel, and even did one with the guys, Ronald J. Terrio and his group, and even we also did one on Hurricane as well. Just gonna try to, again, beers with that heavy duty alcohol content. You got to have at home. This is not an everyday beer. This is a beer like a once in a while, here and there. Uh, Not a beer to have, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is like maybe once a week sort of beer. Um, but in any event, the price was about 153 for this 25-ounce can. If you go to Walmart, you'll see it for about some Walmarts. Walmart I know in this area is $2.97 for the for a 4 pack of this beer. I've seen it also in 12 packs recently. You can already taste the sweetness of this beer immediately when you start sipping it. It's a little bit of lacing, as you can see in my glass here. I don't want to drop this on my laptop. A lot of lacing. Very cold filtered. I just had some leftovers from last night, yesterday, some my spaghetti and with some tomato sauce. Just had that, so I just went ahead and pop open this beer. It's a sip. Um, it has a full body flavored feel to it compared to steel. Steel's a little bit harsh, but still is probably you get steel anywhere. Um, it's one of the many popular malt liquor brands that are out there. Colt 45, Mickey's, as I mentioned, King Cobra. Um, of course, as I mentioned with malt liquors, of course, these beers were sort of dismissed or looked down upon. I mean, not dismissed, I should say. They were sort of embraced back in the early 50s. Again, the crazy laws, as you've heard this before about malt liquors, um, of people of wanting higher, stronger alcohol content in their beer. Couldn't, excuse me, couldn't get it. So they see Country Club was one of the first that came out on the scene with their first brand of beer. Um, then you've had Schlitz. It was also catered to mostly for white folks. Very few African Americans were drinking this beer. They were still drinking, Schlitz, Schmitz, Falstaff, Old Style, Bud, Miller High Life, things like that. They were not drinking these styles of beer. So um, this was for the elite folks. As the times have changed, going to the 60s and 70s, they said let's cater to another market, cater to more the African Americans than just the white folks. And of course, you've seen a lot of the beers, the Schlitz malt liquor commercials and the Colt 45 commercials. At the time, white folks, but also slowly began to advertise towards African Americans and Latinos. Um, um, and You've seen Colt 45, Billy D. Williams going to the early 80s. Of course, the Schlitz Malt Liquor. You had Richard Roundtree, actors. You had actors like um, musicians Cool and the Gang, Teddy Pendergrass, the late Teddy Pendergrass, Average White Band. You name it. All these actors. Famous comedians. Don Adams, David Copperfield, all did commercial Schlitz. And as we're going to the 80s, there was still more Schlitz commercials. And then Colt 45, Billy D. Williams, as I mentioned. Um, Print advertising, you saw Fred Williamson, the Hammer Williamson, the actor, and the guy who played, we've done some movies with him. He's in Karate Kid, the first one. He was the sensei for the bad guys that Ralph Macchio had to beat up, who told the guy Johnny to not to kind of rough up, sweep the legs of Danielson. But anyway, he was the sensei, and he did some commercials with Fred Williamson. But anyway, in any event, I'm going on. As we get into the late '80s and the '90s, rappers began to do more malt liquor commercials. You start seeing more of them around on TV. You saw the rappers, more of the musicians were doing it, and then of course the viewpoint you saw from many from the civil rights community began to knock down and make fun and could blast some of these rappers, even those who were doing those commercials back in the day. Why are you put these commercials? This is poison. This is killing the black community. Blah blah blah. Um, they fail to realize that these beers have a place, and as I said before, these beers are, I feel, were the foundation of the craft beer movement we have. People wanting beer with more flavor, more punch, more kick, and that's why you have the craft beers you have out today. I mean, they're not saying they're the same with the malt liquors, but in terms of what they're looking for, the quality, they want more something to make me feel good, make me feel wow, this is feel great drinking this beer. Than in the standard bland stuff. I mean, there's some craft beers out there. I mean, some of them are at 5%, some at 4%. Then you have others that are at 12%, and um, so there's room for everybody. But now getting back to Hurricane, um, you know, this beer along with King Cobra, both made by Anheuser Busch. You have the 8% of this beer, and then you also have the 6%. King Cobra, I think, is still at 5.9, or I think it's at 6. and I can't get it here in Alabama. I couldn't get it in Mississippi, which is like 25 minutes away from me. Going across into Moss Point, and I can get King Cobra at any service station, wherever, and even Old English 800. So probably gonna end up doing a trip for Labor Day weekend, before Labor Day weekend, so I could have some stash. So I can watch some football games that weekend. College football weekend. Woo, football's back. Um, like I said, this is 8%. It's pretty rough, but again, it's ice cold, real smooth. You have that sweetness. You feel that punch to it. Corn syrup flavor, but the heavy corn. You smell the syrup. The syrup is not heavy, but the corn, you really smell it right out when you put it right to your nose. So, but again, I tell people this beer is not to be have at room temperature or at 40, 50 degrees. This is a beer that you got to have super duper cold. And at 8%, this will lay you on your butt. And as I said right now, the time right now for me, it's about after 8 o'clock, and I don't plan on going anywhere tonight. I'm going to be pretty much in the house chilling, and that's the kind of beer. That's what this beer is. It's not one of these beers you can get up and you're going to go do whatever chores. This is a beer that'll have at home late in the evening or in the afternoon, and you're not planning to go anywhere. And if you plan on going anywhere, make sure you take a nice nap. So this beer is very good. For whatever the reason, Anheuser-Busch doesn't promote this, nor do they promote King Cobra as they did more. I know they promote King Cobra back in the 80s, of course, as I mentioned, the advertising they did, and back in the mid 80s, as I mentioned, Fred Williamson, but those no longer exist now. You barely see any commercials for malt liquors unless it's on the or maybe on some cable stations, but you very rarely see them on network television. Um, um, they kind of have a very found the demand um, sales wise are not the same as some of the other brands of beer. Excuse me, very carbonated this beer is. Um, but the price point of some of these beers are reasonable. Some range between, as I mentioned, the price of the Hurricane for the 16 ounce 4 pack 16 ounces 297. So times that by four, that's like what I don't know, maybe like 16 ounce, maybe about $1, maybe 80 cents a can of that beer, 95 cents. I don't know. Um, um, there's some Steel Reserve is like a 12 pack is like $6 for a 12 pack of 12-ounce cans. I think the same price goes for Hurricane as well. I've seen it at some stores. So Natty Daddy, another one. There's a place out there for some of these beers, but they don't push compared to like the Natural Ice or the Keystone Light or Miller Light, Bud Light, Bush Light, sales wise. But the price points are about reasonable for people who want to get a nice buzz and hang out in the house and chill. Like I said, I had some pasta earlier with this. It's good with barbecue, Mexican food. Um, uh, to me, that's pretty much what I would match this beer with. You know, they say a little bit of a Indian food. I'm like so with a lot of spice. You know, it's one of those things to enjoy. But anyway, going on and on. Pour the rest of this can while I watch this movie. Still ice cold, still lacing. But anyway, for whatever reason, Anheuser-Busch doesn't promote this beer. Neither does King Cobra. I think they're kind of ashamed of it. Where you look at some of the other companies like Pabst with their brand, Schlitz, Malt Liquor, OML. VSL or Ice or even the St. Ides. They're not ashamed of it. Miller, the same thing with Mickey's and um, Ice House Edge, Steel Reserve. They're not ashamed to admit Old English 800 even. They're not ashamed to admit, what they have. Like, hey, we're not. This is our beer. We sell it, and that's that. Um, I mentioned Colt 45, which is owned by Pabst company as well. I forgot to put them in there. And of course, Colt 45 is well renowned, um, you know, in the United States. But anyway, not to go on and on. This is decent in terms of the malt liquor grade. I will give this thing a B. If you can deal with the 8%, I know it's rough, but if you can deal with it, great. Um, like I said, it's been a long day, and I'm very tired, and this is really going to put me to sleep very well tonight. So it's a B for me. B plus, excuse me, B plus, I would say, in the malt liquor category for Hurricane. Tell me what you think. Leave your comments on my page, and that is it. B plus for Hurricane Malt Liquor, high gravity. All right. I am Jean Pierre, Gene Henderson Pierre, signing off. TV Ramble / beer review. Until next time, everyone, cheers.